how are you? Welcome back to my channel. So excited you're here because today we're going to be doing my March reading wrap up. Only got to 6 books in March because it was a wild month. I actually ended up having to move my entire library and my entire bedroom. So yeah, that was a huge undertaking. Even with help, it was daunting. And I'm still not quite done. This little corner might look like it's all put together, but I assure you it's still a little bit chaos in here, and I'm just trying to, be cool about it and just, push through. But yeah, that's why March was a little slow, and that's okay. I don't put too much pressure on myself. I'm more quality over quantity anyways. It's fine. In April, I knew it was going to be a really busy reading month, so I didn't put too much pressure on March. It's fine. I had a couple of buddy reads in March, so we'll get to those first. The first one was Gone to See the Riverman by Kristopher Triana. Read this with the Grim Hobbyist. I'll link her channel down below, so be sure to check out her review whenever it comes up. This one follows Lori. Lori is obsessed with serial killers. She's particularly obsessed with Edmund Cox, and he is in prison. She started writing him in prison and has grown attached to him and has grown obsessed with him. She's like a groupie. But she visits him, she writes letters to him, and he has sent her on a quest to deliver a key to the Riverman. She's supposed to go to Edmund's shack in the woods, find the key, and then deliver said key to the Riverman. She decides to take her disabled sister with her on this weird, ominous adventure, you could call it, to deliver this key to the Riverman. The Riverman doesn't even have an actual address. He just says, you'll know him when you see him. Like, no address given, you'll know him when you see him. Yeah, that's not weird at all. And Lori is a freaking idiot. Like, I hate Lori, and I guarantee you if you read this book, you'll hate Lori too. It's just one of those things. I think it's part of the experience of the book is hating Lori. It lends itself to the overall experience. So if you can't read a book where you hate the main character, maybe you skip it, but it is part of the experience. She and her sister, they go on this quest to deliver the key, and Triana, he has this way of drawing you in. His writing style, this is my second book that I've read by him, and he has this way of drawing you in, and I'm telling you, it's immediate. From the very first page, I was drawn in and had to keep reading. It was very hard to stop reading. And as a buddy read, we tried to keep each other's pace, and it's so hard. Both of us had a hard time with that, like stopping, because it was just so good. So you're drawn in. The setting is perfection. The sense of dread from the very beginning is there. The river, the woods, it's all so ominous and creepy and dark. It's gritty. It's raw. It's just perfect. The whole overall story is just perfect. Yeah, I can't say a lot without giving it away. It's not a very long story, and I can't say much, but you're getting Lori's past. You're getting things from her past that's unraveling. You're getting little snippets of that, and then you're getting these different characters that they're meeting along the river. And the river itself is kind of a character as well. But there's different elements there. And I can't say a lot about it without giving anything away. But just know that the story is it's gritty, it's raw, it's unsettling, it's dark and disturbing. It's just really good. If you are somebody that likes extreme horror, I definitely recommend reading it. And obviously, it's extreme horror. Check trigger warnings. Just know that going into it. 5 stars. Really, really, really good. Next buddy read was Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this. This was in my 24 and 2024. and I'm sure you've heard this book talked about before. I'm a little bit late to the party on this. It's set up like an IKEA catalog, and it is based in a store that is similar to IKEA. It's like a 220,000 square foot furniture store. And weird things have been happening at night in this store. Like really strange things. The inventory reports aren't matching up. The like escalators have gone backwards. Just really weird things. One of the couches had poop on it the next morning. It wasn't there the night before. And nobody knows where this stuff's coming from. Nobody knows what's happening. If somebody's breaking into the store, you know what, they have no idea. Some people think it's ghosts or vandals or whatever. All the upper management are freaking out over this stuff. Sales are down. Things aren't going well for this store. The store manager has talked a couple of employees, Amy and Ruth Ann, into staying overnight to see if they could figure out the culprit and figure out what's going on. Again, the setting of this is pretty creepy. Imagine like this huge furniture store completely empty at night, and all these weird things have been happening. The book itself is an experience because, you know, it's set up like an IKEA catalog. So that's an experience. The book gets more intense as it goes along, but also the little furniture descriptions get more intense and wild as it goes along. And it kind of made me laugh a little bit. They were really good. Grady Hendrix puts a lot of effort and a lot of detail into every little thing. I'm always amazed by the level of detail he puts into every little bitty piece of his books. It's amazing. We'll say none of the characters are really particularly likable, except for Ruth Ann to me. I like Ruth Ann a lot. She was kind of unexpected at times. She was fun. But also the characters being unlikable lended itself to the story, I feel like. It added to the comedic aspect of it, especially Basil. He could not get out of supervisor mode. You know, anytime he would want to help somebody or help one of his employees, it was always because I'm the supervisor, I have to help you. He could not get out of that supervisor mode. It drove me insane. It was also the comedy side of it. This book was freaking wild. It was action-packed, creepy. It was wildly imaginative, like only Grady Hendrix could do. It was wild. Some of the things that happened in this, I could have never dreamed up. It was insane. Just a lot of fun. Like I said, it was an overall experience, and I'm really glad I read it. I just had the best time reading it. Yeah. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The only thing that knocked it down for me was the ending. I wanted more from the ending, but still, it was still a fun book, and I really enjoyed it. And the ending didn't ruin it for me. I just wanted a little bit more from it. Next up is The Peanut Butter and Jelly Zombie by Timothy Lawver. This one was sent to me by the author. I had the best time reading this. This was a lot of fun. So Curly is an average guy. He's just, you know, normal, kind of dorky, awkward. He's having a hard time finding his place, you know. He doesn't really fit in anywhere. And then he ends up getting turned into a zombie. I won't tell you how or what the circumstances are because you need to read it to find out how. But he ends up getting turned into a zombie. And turns out, you know, whatever personality you have goes with you when you get turned into a zombie. So he, even as a zombie, has a hard time fitting in and has a hard time finding his place. And there are different kinds of zombies. So he's not completely out of his mind. He still has his snark and his wit about him. He just can't voice it. So you're getting his perspective. You're getting the zombie's perspective, and you're getting his snark and his wit and his sarcasm and his thoughts, which are hilarious, by the way. It's just he can't voice those to others in the book. And it is really, really funny. And on top of all of his troubles and on top of all the problems he's having as a zombie and being misunderstood, he also is a vegetarian, which is also really funny. Throughout the book, he'll have moments of getting irritated with people, but he'll think, I just want to bite them. But he doesn't want to eat them because he doesn't eat meat. He'll just want to bite them because he's irritated. It's fun because you're getting all of Curly's lessons that he's learning as a new zombie. All the things he's learning that you can and can't do, just all the lessons he's learning along the way on his journey. I would definitely classify this as comedy horror, which is one of my favorite subgenres. I had a really good time with it. It's a very unique read, I thought. Getting the zombies' perspective was a lot of fun. I would give this one 3 stars. Next up is Chasing the Dragon by Towse. This one was sent to me by the author. He sent me a physical copy. Unfortunately, it never made it here. He offered to send me another one, but I didn't want him to be out another copy. I know that costs them money. I felt bad about it. It's not his fault it never made it here. I typically only read physical copies because I have a hard time reading screens. But this one time I made an exception, and I'm like, you know, I don't want you to be out any more money. I'll read it on the screen because I really wanted to get a review out before publication date for him. It was something that I was really interested in reading, and I'm really glad I did because I had a great time reading it. So much of a great time reading it that I'm going to be buying a physical copy. That's how much of a good time I had. I really wanted the physical copy to get here before I got this video done, but unfortunately I wasn't able to do that. It's a superhero book, and it's another comedic horror / superhero book. So Simon pledged to his mother when she was alive that he would bring order to his city. His city is a crime-riddled city, and there's a lot going on there, and his mom was, you know, kind of verbally abusive, I would call her, and Mark has a lot of issues because of that. So when she was still alive, he pledged to her that he would bring order to the city. So here he is, he's an adult, and he has decided he's going to become a superhero and he's going to bring order to the city. So he gets himself a suit made that everyone calls a leotard, which is hilarious. It's really funny through the whole thing. He gets himself a suit made, a superhero suit, and he comes up with a name, which is another whole process. He ends up landing on the Reformer for a name after a lot of trial and error. So yeah, he's the Reformer now, and he's going to calm the chaos in his city. By the way, the criminal names in this are absolutely hilarious. They are all really good. Just as an example, Bumfluff. That is one of the criminal names. Hysterical. There were parts of this book that had me laughing out loud so much that my kids thought something was wrong with me. They were literally saying, "What is wrong with you?" Everyone in my house just looked at me. Oh, she's just reading again. Okay. But I don't know how many parts of this made me laugh so hard. It was good. It was great. I'm telling you, when I tell you I had the best time reading it, I am not kidding. It was greatness. If you liked, to me, on the same level, as far as comedy level, Deadpool. If you like Deadpool, and I know I referenced another book on my top 10 list that was on the same level comedically as Deadpool. This is another one that reminded me of Deadpool, that same sort of humor. It's very action-packed. You have a lot of action-packed scenes where Simon gets himself in all these situations because he basically invented himself from scratch. He invented his superhero persona from scratch. He had no experience. Zero. Aside from he's been lifting weights. He did say he's been lifting weights and working out. Otherwise, he had no experience as a superhero, does not know what he's doing. And he keeps getting himself in these situations where he runs across different situations within his city and decides to insert himself in those situations. But it's not just that. You're getting his backstory too. And I love a hero backstory. And you're getting also his dead mother's nagging voice in his head the whole time. He meets a lot of interesting characters along the way as well that you don't get to know on a deep level because it's mostly about Simon. but you do get to meet a lot of interesting characters along the way as well. That was fun. I thought it was the perfect blend of comedy and darkness. 5 stars, yeah, an absolute blast. I would recommend it to anybody that enjoys comedy, horror, and superhero novels. Next up is Metal Demon by Julie Hiner. This one was also sent to me by the author. Alina is a metal demon, and she has possessed this rocker chick to where she could be in disguise and go all over the city to these death metal concerts and basically feed off of the life aura of death metal lead singers. She's doing fine, and then one night everything changes when she feeds off of the aura of Sage, who is the lead singer of Soiled Carcass, which, by the way, the band names in this are are really good. They're really creative. Once she feasts on Sage, all of a sudden she has these new urges that she didn't have before. Sexual urges, and also urges to feast on human flesh, which is pretty gross. There's definitely gore in this. There's definitely violence in this. You know, obviously anything on this list check for trigger warnings, it's horror, come on. But she's trying really hard to fight these urges throughout the whole book. You're getting dual points of view. You're getting Alina's point of view, and then you're also getting Sage's. Sage figures out that Alina's the one behind it. At his gig where she feeds off his aura, he collapses on stage. And shortly after his gig, he starts having these visions, and he starts reliving the overdose he had had years before. He starts reliving that in vivid detail. And he figures out it has something to do with that night, and then he remembers Alina and figures out she has something to do with it. So he starts trying to piece all this together. So you're getting his point of view, and you're getting Alina's point of view. I thought the death metal and horror together was really cool. I liked that combination. I thought it was a really interesting concept. Definitely got dark. I think the big theme in this was addiction, because Alina is dealing with an alcohol addiction, and then Sage is dealing with his drug addiction, and he's reliving the overdose that he had had. They're both dealing with addiction, and I think really that's what's at the heart of this. You get both of them in their own separate roles, but then you also get them when they're thrown together. You also get Alina's backstory and how she got where she is, which was really interesting, and I think that was my favorite part, was getting to know her more, and I could have done more with that. I also liked the pacing of it. It was a pretty short book, but from the beginning all the way through, Alina is kind of slowly unraveling. She's slowly getting more and more out of control. She's trying to gain control, but she's slowly getting more and more out of control. And I thought that was the pacing was really good. The things I didn't like, the thing that didn't work for me, was that it was a lot of repetition. The same language over and over and over, especially the whole metal demon thing was repeated 500 times. And also the characters didn't have their own voices. I feel like they both had the same tone of voice, both of them. They needed their own tone, but the concept was really good, and I would read more from this author, and I thought it was really interesting and really dark, and I give it 3 stars. Next up is The Carrow Haunt by Darcy Coates. Remy is a tour guide for the Carrow house. She's been the tour guide for a couple years. She knows the house very well. One night after the tour, this guy stays over, and he gives her a proposition. He asks her, hey, would you be willing to stay in the Carrow house with me and a group of people for 2 weeks? Be our guide, be the person that knows, all this stuff about the house. You know this house better than anybody. So will you stay with us for a couple weeks? I'm going to have a medium there, and then I'm going to have this ghost hunter there that has all the equipment. And, you can invite a couple of your own people. I'll invite a couple people, and we're going to do seances and all these things, and we're going to, see if we can see actual ghosts. And at first she thought, no, this is a bad idea, but then he offered her a pretty big sum of money, so she decided to do it. Well, everything's going fine, but then a storm blows through and they end up stranded there. Once they end up stranded there, and they have no communication to the outside world at all, because they're essentially on an island. There's ocean around, this cliffs that just drop straight down into the ocean, and there's a storm. And so the only way to the mainland is this bridge, and there's ocean, like huge waves that goes over the bridge. There's no way to get back to the mainland. They're stuck. There's no way to call anybody. They're 100% stranded, and things just get worse and worse. And then one of the guests die under mysterious circumstances. That's when things really get ugly. That's when they start thinking that one of the ghosts, who was a serial killer, the one that like caused most of the reason that the house is haunted, that's when they think maybe he's responsible for the death, or he's the one that's stalking the halls. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I don't want to give anything away. The setting was hella creepy. The fact that they're stranded in this abandoned house. The house is huge. It's a massive Victorian mansion, and it hasn't been lived in years. Everything is candlelight. There's a huge storm, so you have waves crashing against the house. Like, the room that they're doing the seances and stuff in has this window that the window goes right next to a cliff, and the cliff is just drops to the ocean, and the ocean is all sides of the house. So the setting is perfect. The setting is so creepy, and it is creepy. The book itself is creepy. The problems I had with it is that some things were unbelievable, and then the ending wasn't believable, and that's all I'll leave it with. I'm not going to tell you anything else because I don't want to ruin anything or anything like that. I'll just leave it at that, but because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But I think a lot of people would like it. I don't think it was a bad book, and I can see other people liking it, and I know that it had a lot of good reviews, and it's Darcy Coates, so you still might like it, and I wouldn't tell you not to read it. I gave it 3 stars. I don't think it was a bad book. It wasn't badly written. It was well written. The mood was there. Those were all the books I read in March. Next week, I'll be doing a vlog for Old School April week 1, where I'll show you guys what I'm watching, what I'm reading, all the activities I'm doing. So look forward to that. I will see you next Friday. Bye for now.